Someone to Watch Over Me with some Oscar Peterson kind of licks, runs, flourishes, virtuosic content in there. And today I want to show you 5 of my very favorite Oscar Peterson licks, 5 of the most useful ones that I insert into my playing all the time. But first, I just want to tell you that I hate reducing artists to licks, and I love Oscar Peterson. Oscar Peterson is one of the reasons that I got into jazz in the first place. So please check out his records. We Get Requests, Blues Etude, West Side Story, live at the Concertbegouw, live at Zardy's, live at the Stratford Shakespearean Festival, the solo records like Tracks, and exclusively for my friends, which is where I kind of first learned Someone to Watch Over Me, the duets with Ella Fitzgerald, the duets with Harry Sweets Edison. I mean, there's too many amazing records to possibly mention, but please go beyond these 5 licks. But with that, I do want to give you these because they've been very useful to me in my career. So here we go. So this first one is really harmonically interesting, and you'll hear Oscar use this all the time. It's this pattern of a root of the chord, a half step, and then a fourth. And oftentimes Oscar will put a little enclosure or something to finish off the lick. And I always imagine like a gymnast who completes their flip or whatever, and you have to do that thing at the end where you stick that landing and you prove it. So I love this because Oscar, I think his virtuosity sometimes is what people talk about, but this is so harmonically interesting. It's the flat ninth and the flat 5 of the chord, but together they just form this really interesting, almost monk-like little cluster. And you hear Chick Corea actually using little cells like this within a lot of his playing. So that's kind of a fun one to play around with on a dominant chord. This next one is great for a 2-5-1, and you'll also hear Oscar use this a lot. This was one he really had under his fingers. And it's in certain keys, especially like C and a lot of the other kind of places where you can easily put your thumb on the white key. This one flows really nicely, and it fits in great rhythmically with these 6 tuplets. So this is basically, if I'm in the key of C major, I'm using a D minor 7 and an A minor 7 chord. And I'm putting in, imitating him by putting in a little neighbor tone. And then we also double back at the end of each chord. So if you want to think technically, we're using the minor 2 and the minor 6, 7th chords of each key. Which is really beautiful, really rhythmically energetic. Now, some of you who are really into the theory might notice that we have a C in this against the G7. And so, yeah, technically maybe that's a little bit problematic. Usually we would want to resolve this note, but I think as long as it goes by fast enough, it doesn't bother me a bit. Alright, moving on to number 3. You heard me use this as I just played Someone to Watch Over Me. This is based on the octatonic scale, but I guess you could do the same thing with any scale. And Oscar's so clever. He was such a good technician. And so instead of just playing the scale straight up, which would probably not be that interesting because it's just a scale. That's so stressful to do in front of millions on my YouTube channel. I'm just joking, of course. But he puts what I call a little curl in the scale. He goes. And there's a lot of different ways to do this. It could be, rhythmically you could kind of find a bunch of different ways to put this little curl in your scale. But it makes it so much more interesting. Instead of just having a straight up, you've kind of got this wavy. Now, a lot of these Oscar licks, I fake by doing them with 2 hands, because I'm not that good of a pianist. Like, when I just played Someone to Watch Over Me, I'll do it in slow motion, watch closely. This is directly a transcription from Oscar. Watch closely here. I do that with 2 hands, because I can do that, but not that cleanly. I bet Oscar was doing it with 1 hand because he's a brilliant pianist. This one he does in double octave. And it's kind of fun to play with different spacings. So what I'm saying is we can't fake this one with two hands, guys. So you will hear him do it just one octave apart like I did there, or sometimes he'll do it very spread. In which case your left hand each hand is a little bit more exposed, which I don't care for. But you do get an interesting ring kind of in that upper register. So that's a fun one to play around with. And because it is for an octatonic scale, there's only 3 different octatonic scales, so you only have to learn it 3 times, right? Number 4 is even more convenient. It's with the whole tone scale. So you only have to learn it 2 times. There's only 2 different whole tone scales. And you'll hear Oscar Peterson do this both solo and with a trio. He's basically dividing this whole tone scale into augmented triads, kind of interlocking augmented triads. And if you follow just the very top note of each triad, you'll hear it's just going stepwise up that whole tone scale. And what he what he frequently does, which makes it extra cool, is that you can see rhythmically, even though they're groups of 3, I'm not doing them as triplets. I'm doing them as 8th notes, which means that the accent is going to change depending on where in the pattern it falls. By the way, if you're interested in this, I made a whole video about how Bill Evans does this and how we can use groups of 3. So check that out. I'm sure you can find it on my channel. But if we're playing 1, 2, 3, and we've got that nice kind of rhythmic tension of what we call a hemiola, which is a group that doesn't fit evenly into the overall rhythm. Which brings us to number 5. You know what I haven't done? I haven't plugged my book. I'm the author of Playing Solo Jazz Piano, and I really appreciate it when people buy my book. Appreciate it when they buy it from my website, and I think it's got a lot of good stuff, including a lot of stuff about Oscar Peterson in there. So if you're enjoying this and interested in learning more, this is the best place. Nope, it's over there. So number 5 is this really nice thing. And one thing I've noticed about both Oscar Peterson and Art Tatum, 2 of the greatest piano technicians of all time, is that they love doing these things where they don't have to cross over or under. So here it's just these 2 hand positions. And then just move, 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 move. And so here, if I were in charge of explaining this by theory, it's like the triad for the 1 chord, the triad for the minor 5, triad for the 1 chord, the triad for the minor 5, and then with a little hitch in it. So that's really fun. And then if you look at 5A here, that's that same thing with a little turn. By the way, you guys can hear that this is like a little bit country sounding, right? if you linger too long. It sounds like a pop or country. This is a pretty easy one to fly with. And then 5B, you actually heard me do when I was playing Someone to Watch Over Me at the beginning, but this is just a triad. Okay. And now, I probably wouldn't do that triad, that F triad on an F7. It doesn't sound very colorful or jazzy. Sounds like Rachmaninoff or something. I would choose a more colorful triad, maybe a G triad against an F7. Or a A flat. Or a B. Or a D flat. Right? When I did it, I was actually doing it over an E diminished. So I did a G flat or F sharp triad, which is nice because I love like the brightness of that F sharp triad against the E diminished. Great, so those are 5 licks that you can play around with that I hear Oscar doing all the time. Again, just a reminder, licks are great, but go listen to the records. Those are the places to check it out. You can know all the licks and still sound like garbage. So go check out My Favorite Instrument, go check out We Get Requests, Blues Etude, Live at the Blue Note, a million other amazing Oscar Peterson records. He was so prolific. And thanks for checking out the channel. Please like and subscribe. I always really appreciate it. And I'll see you soon.